this is the Minnesota Score Basketball Show, brought to you by Shakopee Chevrolet. Wally Langfellow along with the coach, Larry McKenzie, head coach of the Minneapolis North Polars. We won't go any further without talking about your Polars, who are back in the state tournament again, and I know you've got your eye on the prize.
Absolutely. So, we're pretty excited. This group have been now, 3 out of the last 4 years. Everybody, never forget, 2020, we got shut down right before the section finals, which we felt like we had an opportunity to beat the state. So they've got a second place, but what they don't have is a championship. And so that's what our focus is going to be on for the rest of the week. Well,
and the expectations are there. You are the #1 seed in Class 2A. So
absolutely.
Well, we'll break it down a little bit more as we go along. Let's start out, though, by talking about Class 4A. And that is going to be interesting because I think we have some pretty good matchups, particularly, typically in the first round, those matchups haven't been very good in 4A because the seeding and the way things shake out in sections. So let's go one by one. First of all, Park Center opens up. They're the #1 team in the state. They're the #1 seed. They're 28-1. They open up against an Andover team. I don't see them losing this game, but they are awfully good.
Yeah, obviously Andover got there, but I played against Park Center, and I know their talent, very, very talented. I've talked to James on a number of occasions. We talked to him earlier in the show, in the season. And the thing about it is, I think those kids are really focused, and they got the talent to win it all.
Yeah, and they took apart Osseo. Osseo closed the gap a little bit towards the end of the game. And you had mentioned, throw the book out the window when you play a rival. And Osceo's a good basketball team, but, man, they just dismantled them in that section championship.
And you're right, Wally. So the first thing when I saw the score, I thought about our conversations that we had, right coming into the championships. And I was surprised, without a doubt. And to me, that just tells me, the level of focus that this team is at. I really expected that to be a lot closer.
Yeah, it wasn't even as close as the score indicated. Yeah. All right, second game of the day. And it might be the best matchup in that first round, Eastview against Eden Prairie. Now, I saw Eden Prairie play in the section championship in Shakopee. And I got to tell you right now, they're playing as well as anybody at this time of year, maybe this side of Park Center.
Well, I always say this, right? I don't believe that the best team win the championship. I believe it's the teams that are playing the best.
Good point.
This time of year that wins championship. And the one thing about Coach Flom, he's a veteran coach, and I believe in programs. I always say that. When you see teams and coaches that get back year after year after year, that's not just a good team. That's a program, and oftentimes built to win. So, I expect to, Eden Prairie is, look to be playing the way the coach wants them to play at this time of year. And again, I'm a surprised. I thought that was, if there was an upset in Class 4A, that was the biggest upset of them all.
Yeah.
I think everybody had. Shakopee was #2 in the state.
Right. And I got to tell you, Coach Flom on our show last week mentioned Chidi Obiazer, and he played out of his mind. He was really good against Shakopee, and they did not shoot the ball that well. Eden Prairie did not rely on those threes like they had been previously. If you remember, Coach Flom told us that they shot 65% in their last 5 games from 3. They didn't do that, and they didn't need it because Obiazer was so good.
Well, you want that one kid that don't want to go home, right? And it sounds like that was the kind of performance that he gave last week against Shakopee.
Yeah, no question about it. The 2 o'clock game has Owatonna against Cretin-Derham Hall. I haven't seen either team. Obviously, we're talking about Trey Holloman when we're talking about Cretin. Do you see Cretin winning this basketball game?
Well, I haven't seen Owatonna, but I've heard that they've got some talent. Few big guys and that kind of thing.
Coach's kid, too.
Coach's kid that can really shoot the ball. And one thing about Cretin, if you think about Cretin is in the state tournament for the 3rd straight year, right? Or I think 2020.
Lost the state championship last year.
But they've gotten there last 3 years on a buzzer beater, right, coming out of this section. And so that's just a hard way to live, right, to continue, just trying to keep it tight to get that last shot. And so I expect, for Trey to come and bring it all. But I think this one is going to be a little tough for Creighton going into the quarterfinals.
Okay. And then the final matchup of the day, Wayzata and Moorhead. We're going to talk to Bryan Schnettler. He's the head coach of the Wayzata Trojans. They are the defending state champions in Class 4A. They were really good last year, and they're playing some of their best basketball right now as well.
And I can tell you personally, Wally, they've been really good this year.
We played
against them. They came into our gym. First of all, they're well coached, right? Coach is going to have them prepared. And then they got talent. You know, they got talent. And I also think that here's a group, they lost one of their better players.
Yeah, Cam Heidi
left to go to prep school. And so I think you have some of those kids who have stepped up and want to prove, you know, like, okay, you know, we've got something to prove. And I know, you know, those guys before us won a state title, but we want to prove that we can do it as well.
Yeah, and Carter Bierke, as you found out when you played against him.
Tough.
He is a big, tough
he
kid.
changes the game because you really, you know, usually you want to try to keep your big guys closer to the basket to defend, right?
Right.
You can't do that with him. And so he creates, so I had to go to, for me, I had to use Jacob Butler, who's typically, you know, playing the 3-4 for me to try to guard him. And then to be honest with you, he was just too strong for it.
Right. So then
he
goes down.
So then he went,
he goes down low.
So then he went down low, and really it came to a rebound and a putback.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, that's the way they beat us.
Yeah. All right. Next, Class 3A quarterfinals. Totino Grace, they have been number one in Class 3A just about all year. Them and Willie Brazil's Columbia Heights team, they edged out Columbia Heights to get there. I just think it's a shame that these teams can't meet in the state tournament. Columbia Heights should be in the state tournament. There's got to be a way to figure this out. We'll talk about more of that later. But what do you like about Totino?
You know, you lost a couple teams, right? Because another team that I think is an X factor in this is De La Salle.
Right.
They beat South St. Paul, who was undefeated, and would have been number 2 the most of the year. In the rankings. I played De La Salle earlier. I think they're a much different team, a lot more disciplined. I think guys have finally figured out their roles, and I won't be surprised. I mean, I know Totino Grace got a lot of talent, but I won't be surprised if De La Salle don't pull this off.
All right, and they're opposite, and as you can see, they're in opposite brackets, so Totino and De La Salle could very well meet for that championship game. Would not surprise anybody. All right, let's move to Class AA, where you guys are the number 1 seed. Do you know anything at all about this Glencoe team?
Nothing at all except what I've seen on tape. You know, pretty good team. They've gotten there. Play a lot of half-court basketball, so it'll be important for us to control tempo and that kind of stuff. And that's what we'll look to do.
All right. And then potentially a rematch with Minnehaha. You played them and you beat them earlier in the season.
Yeah, and Minnehaha, you know, you got Prince, I can't even say his name, but one of the best, one of the top players in the state, you know, that's playing on that team. So it'll be a good matchup.
All right. And then Class A, finally, you see the matchups there. You were in Class A for a little while. Should be some interesting basketball. That all gets underway at Williams Arena beginning on Wednesday. All right. When we come back, we are going to talk to Bryan Schnettler. He is the boys' head basketball coach of the defending state champions. Can they do it again? We'll find out more from Bryan right after this timeout. You are watching the Minnesota Score Basketball Show, brought to you by Shakopee Chevrolet.
Hi, I'm Larry McKenzie, head coach of Minneapolis North boys basketball. And when you're building a championship program, there are many components and many levels to that. One of the most important things is trust. And so when I think about cars, when I think about my grandbabies driving around, when I think about family, friends, or my former players, I go to this guy, David Jones, Shakopee Chevrolet. This is the man that I trust.
Hi, I'm David Jones, Special Finance Manager here at Shakopee Chevrolet. Go online right now and get your guaranteed credit approval at www.shakopeechevrolet.com/David Jones.
And we continue along here on the Minnesota Score Basketball Show. Wally Langfeld along with the coach, and we are now going to be joined by another coach who had a ton of success last year, Larry. The Wayzata Trojans, led by Bryan Schnettler, defending state champions in Class 4A. First of all, Bryan, congratulations on that run last year, but that's all in the rearview mirror now. You've got a brand new situation and an opportunity to win a back-to-back championship, and that doesn't happen all the time.
Yeah, thank you. That seems like a long time ago now in our new group, a lot of returning players, but a lot of new faces playing as well, and we're excited about this week.
So Bryan, being the defending champs, how much carryover is it really in terms of? I know you had to replace a couple kids and that kind of thing, but what does it mean to the kids to actually be defending the title versus going to play for a title? How will you approach that different this year?
Yeah, we've been all year long. It's been something that we've had to deal with a little bit, and then when you are the defending champs, as you know, Larry, everybody looks at you a little differently. They want to beat you more so than they even did previously. We did lose 3 good senior guards from last year, and we lost 2 kids. One moved away and one transferred to a prep school. So I think our kids have kind of had a little bit of a chip on their shoulder all year long. Like, hey, we can do this without what we lost. And we got some guys that have had a lot of experience, been playing for 3 or 4 years. We got some new faces playing who guys have been waiting their chance for a long time. And now they have that chance, and they've taken full opportunity of it so far this year, and they're really looking forward to this week.
And you did lose some really good players. Cam Heide, you mentioned, went on to play prep school basketball. But your team has risen to the occasion. You basically coasted through the section playoffs. What do you think the difference is between your 2 teams from last year and this year? What's the main difference?
We offensively and defensively were similar. I think we were probably more athletic and a little quicker last year. We had, obviously, with Cam and Cody Williams and Eddie Benega, all 3 of them are college players. Devin Vanderpool is going to be a Division I kid. He's a junior playing for Christ the King in Brooklyn. His dad's with the Brooklyn Nets. So we lost some really talented kids. This year's group is very, very close. Like, they've become really good, close, and they're really good friends. And that's something that, hey, if we win it this year, great. If we don't, it is what it is. I mean, these guys are going to be friends for the rest of their life. And to me, that's the most important thing.
Hey, Bryan, one of the things that when you play against Wayzata, you expect that, you guys really shoot the lights out the ball. For coaches that may be listening, I'm curious about how much time you put into shooting. How important is that in terms of your practice plan and those kind of things? Talk to our youth coaches and our young coaches out there that are listening about, what it takes to shoot the ball the way your team does.
Yeah, hey, let's be real. You can do it in practice. That matters a ton. We spend a minimum of 20 minutes every day, usually at the start of practice, on shooting. Some days we go for an hour, and it's in like Saturdays or not this Saturday as much, but if we played Friday night, Saturdays usually focus an hour of shooting every Saturday. But these kids put a lot of time in outside of it too. You don't become a great shooter just by showing up to practice and getting those reps in. You got to put in that time in the driveway, in the court, and it starts when you're young. And these kids have, to their credit, have done that. And it's kind of been something that we've just, hey, you see the guy in front of you put in that time, you want to do the same thing. You want to be able to shoot it like they can. So we spend a lot of time in practice. We emphasize it as a program. But it's something that these guys also put a lot of time in on their own.
Speaking of shooters, and I don't know whether you want him to do it or not, your big guy, Carter Bierke, he has turned into one of the better shooters in all of high school basketball, especially for his size. What makes him a special player?
Yeah, Carter's 6'9". He's got really good footwork, but he can shoot the lights out. And I know that's what teams worry about the most. They're worried about him setting a ball screen and popping. They're worried about his ability to space the floor and bring the big guy away from the hoop. It allows other guys on our team to be able to get driving lanes and score inside when he pulls their big guy out. But his ability now to score in the paint and have a couple go-to post moves that he's added really has helped our team a lot this year and kind of been our go-to guy. Hey, we need a bucket. We're going into Carter inside. But yeah, he shot 50% as a freshman, and all he did was shoot threes. And he's kind of adjusted over time here and added a lot of stuff to his game.
Bryan, you're playing a familiar opponent in your first round of the state tournament, team that you played earlier. Talk about the growth of your team from early January when you may have played Moorhead to now. What are some of the things that you feel like your team have improved on, and what are you going to have to do different to get past them in the quarterfinal of the state tournament?
Yeah, we played Moorhead on a Saturday in mid-January. up at their place, and it was a really fun trip for our guys. We took their phones away on the way home, actually. It's amazing what happens with high school boys when they don't have their phones. There's a lot of chanting and singing and dancing and just goofiness. But they got a good team. Their point guard is a very good player. They got a shooter. They can really shoot it, and their big kid Jenkins can score inside, and he can shoot it a little bit as well. And their coach, I believe, is in his second year, but he does a pretty good job with those guys. So they run a ton of stuff that we got to prepare for. I think anybody who's playing the state tournament this time of year has improved a lot in the last 2 months. You don't get to this point without getting better, and our team has done that. I think they've gone through some things that most teams probably haven't gone through this year since that game, and I think it's really brought us closer together. Our ball movement's better than it was back then, and I think our just attention to detail on defense has really improved as well.
At what point in the season did you kind of was able to, walk in the gym, practice, and look at and say, I've got a potential back-to-back championship team?
Yeah, I'll tell you on Saturday night when we have that back-to-back championship team if I think we got that potential. But our kids, I think after we beat Eastridge on the road at their place, a good Eastridge team who's a good buddy of mine as their head coach, without Carter didn't play in that game, and we were able to go over there and win. I think that was kind of when we knew, like, we have something here. These guys have really come together. They've been playing really well as a group, and Carter he was probably our best coach that night, and he did a great job of leading from the bench. And that was when I could tell, like, we got something special with this group.
You mentioned Carter. He's one of your senior players. Talk to me about Birkeland, because I've enjoyed watching him. I know he had some key buckets for you in the state tournament last year. He's such a gritty kid, obviously a good football player as well. Tell me what he means to your squad.
Yeah, I think Drew is truly one of the best athletes this school has ever seen, and maybe the state's ever seen. He was a really good football player the last 3 years, won a state championship as a sophomore. He's played basketball for us for 4 years now, and he's a two-time captain and all-conference kid. Last year, he in the state championship game and state semis, he was probably our best player. And just the bigger the stage, the better he gets. We got a few kids like that just love the big stage. And but it's best sports baseball. I mean, hey, he might get drafted this June, and he's going to play for the Gophers. Go for the Gophers next year, and he's the most competitive kid I've ever been around. And you could be playing a board game, and my guess is if he loses, that board game's not going to last much longer. It might be in pieces around the living room. Like, he is just a kid that hates to lose and wants to find a way to do whatever he can to help his team win.
Well, Bryan, we appreciate you spending some time with us. I know you've got some work cut out for you ahead of you, and hopefully you get back to this time it's Williams Arena should you move off from Target Center and get to cut the nets down again one more time. Good luck to you.
Good luck, Coach.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys. Good luck to you too, Larry.
All right. He is Bryan Schnettler. He is the boys head basketball coach of the Wayzata Trojans. They are the defending champions in Class 4A, and they're going at it against Moorhead in the first round and hopefully more after that. We'll be back with more here on the Minnesota Score Basketball Show after this timeout. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Larry McKenzie, head coach of Minneapolis North boys basketball. And when you're building a championship program, there are many components and many levels to that. One of the most important things is trust. And so when I think about cars, when I think about my grandbabies driving around, when I think about family, friends, or my former players, I go to this guy, David Jones, Shakopee Chevrolet. This is the man that I trust.
Hi, I'm David Jones, Special Finance Manager here at Shakopee Chevrolet. Go online right now and get your guaranteed credit approval at www.shakopeechevrolet.com/David Jones.
This is the Minnesota Score Basketball Show, and Coach, I know you got your squad ready to go for state tournament action. Part of that, of course, is making sure you have a lot of guys that contribute, and one of them is going to join us right now. Before we bring on Mieko, tell me a little bit about Mieko Anderson.
Well, Miko's one of our senior guards, and he's just had an outstanding year. What I'm most proud of, I mean, I've been on him over the course of the last 4 years about staying on the floor, working on both ends, and I mean, I have to give him a lot of credit because he's really put in the work He's become one of our team leaders. He's a quiet kid, but he's been, very vocal when needed, holding his teammates accountable, and somebody that, I may not be sitting here talking about us in the state tournament without the year that he's had.
Okay. Well, let's bring Mieko on right now. Mieko, senior guard for this squad. Mieko, did you expect coming into this season to be where you guys are right now?
Yes, every year we always expect to make it far and bring it home. So we always expect to be here.
Is this team as good as any of the other teams that you've been on here at North?
Yeah, every year I've been at North, we always had talent, but we never had this many seniors. So I think I'll rank this team as one of the higher teams on the list.
Yep. So Mieko, the one question I know that everybody's listening and watching tonight is going to want to know, what's it been like to play for Coach McKenzie?
Uh-oh. Careful, Mieko.
To play for Coach McKenzie, you have to just be, open, and you can't just be in your feelings because, he's going to get on you. Even if you do good, he's still going to get on you. So, you really have to just, be able to own up to things, communicate, talk. You can't just be all in yourself. He's going to make you feel uncomfortable, get you out your comfort zone. So you just have to, be ready. Crazy, funny. You don't know who this move going to be. You just have to come with the best you.
Mieko, I want to ask, you and I had a conversation back in November, and I know, I would most definitely say, you lean toward the side of being an introvert. I challenge you about being a leader this year, and obviously you stepped up on and off the court in terms of that. How challenging, for a young kid or somebody else listening, how much have you had to push yourself to get to where you are right now?
A lot. It didn't happen overnight. And when we had that talk, I was waiting for that moment with my years just always playing behind somebody, and then knowing this year was going to be my time. This is what I've been waiting for. So it was kind of challenging. Okay, now it's I get my opportunity. Now I got to take advantage of it. Because that's what I'm made for, to be the leader, to just help my team out. So it wasn't always easy, but I think I'm doing a good job of it.
Mieko, coming up and watching Minneapolis North, there have been some great players that have come through here, guys like Tyler Johnson. Do you look at that when you were a younger kid coming through this program and look at a player like that and say, hey, that could be me moving on to the next level, whether it was football, obviously, for Tyler, although he was a basketball player too. Do guys on your club and yourself, do you look at guys like Tyler, look up to them?
Well, Miko's a wide receiver too. He's played football as well the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely, look up to them people like that. And, I even try to keep in touch with some of them and hear their stories about Coach McKenzie and how their experience was. So, yeah, that's just inspiration. And for him to come where I came from and you see he made it to the highest level, I'd be thinking to myself, why can't I do that? That could be me too.
He won a Super Bowl, for goodness sakes. There's nothing wrong with that,
yeah.
being there with Tom Brady winning a Super Bowl. It doesn't get much better than that, does it?
Yeah, it's crazy.
So Mieko, one of the challenges, and again, to me this year has been a challenging year particularly for you guys. Obviously, we had a positive COVID test and had to take 10 days off. The loss of a teammate and a classmate. Now the teachers strike. Talk about some of the things that you've done, man, to stay focused in terms of the goal of becoming a state champion. I know it's been challenging for me, and so I know it has to be difficult for you as well. And then being a leader of the team has also, with that, brought about some extra burdens as well. How hard has it been to stay focused?
It's been hard, but our team saying, you have to make sacrifices, So just knowing that I can't just always go out with my friends and go party. I have to stay in the house, go to the gym, you know, because we want the end goal, the championship. So I've been okay with making sacrifices, not doing other things, because then after we win, you know, I can have all the fun I can. And with the COVID stuff, like, we really can't control it, but that comes down to yourself too, like just knowing not to go out as much, just go to school, practice, and play basketball. You know, that could give us a low chance of catching COVID. So just being smart about when I'm going outside and stuff like that. And then with the loss of D Hill, you know, that hurts too, but I can't just let it break me down, because I know he wouldn't want me to just give up on my dreams and just fall out. So that's motivation for me to just keep going, live through him, keep doing this for him, because I know he'll want me to keep going too if he was still here with us.
Well, Mieko, we appreciate you spending some time with us. I know that you guys are using that as motivation. Coach McKenzie has talked about that, and good luck at the state tournament.
Let's go get this trophy.
Thank you.
All right.
Yes, sir.
All right. He is Mieko Anderson Jr. He is a senior leader on this Minneapolis North Polars team, trying to get another championship for Minneapolis North. We'll be back with our final score and our final takes of the day after this timeout.
Hi, I'm Larry McKenzie, head coach of Minneapolis North boys basketball. And when you're building a championship program, there are many components and many levels to that. One of the most important things is trust. And so when I think about cars, when I think about my grandbabies driving around, when I think about family, friends, or my former players, I go to this guy, David Jones, Shakopee Chevrolet. This is the man that I trust.
Hi, I'm David Jones, Special Finance Manager here at Shakopee Chevrolet. Go online right now and get your guaranteed credit approval at www.shakopeechevrolet.com/David Jones.
Final segment of this week's show, and it is time now for the final score, so to speak. And Coach, I've been waiting all season to get on this, but I'm going to jump on it right now. This is my big chance. State tournament coming up. All right. So we just talked about the fact a little bit earlier in the show how Columbia Heights, Willie Brazil's team, can't get to the state tournament because of geography, basically, what it comes down to, right? Because they got Totino Grace and Columbia Heights in the same section. You go to Class 4A, Shakopee, the number 2 team in the state that you talked about, can't be in the state tournament because they're in the same section with Eden Prairie. And Eden Prairie wins that basketball game.
And let's not forget South St. Paul.
South St. Paul, another good basketball team, should be in the state tournament, but they can't get in there because they're in the same section with who? Who are they in, with Cretin?
They were in De La Salle.
Oh, De La Salle, right. Yeah. They were in with De La Salle. So you've got pretty good basketball teams that can't get
East Ridge in with Cretin.
Then they were in with Cretin. They can't get into the state tournament. Osseo was in with Park Center.
I kind of think I know where this is going.
We need to change the formula, folks. The coaches had it right. You guys had a proposal in front of the Minnesota State High School League Board last spring, I believe it was, and it got shot down, where you keep the sections the way they are, but when you get to the section finals, you take the 16 teams that remain and you make it into one big tournament, kind of like they do in football. Why can't we do this? Because that way at least you can keep the integrity of the sections. I get it. I'd rather see 32 or even 64, but I can live with 16, especially with 4A. I understand with the smaller classes, you got some geography problems with travel. But with 4A, you only have a handful of teams in the outstate. Why can't we get this done, Coach?
Well, Wally, I mean, you just got to continue to. I knew this was coming. We've been listening audience. We've been talking about this for like 10 years now, at least. And so, but you know, I mean, it's something that's on the table. We've been talking about, and again, I mean, I think
the coaches are on board.
The coaches are on board. I know the fans would love to see it.
Yes, let's get the 8 best teams that are playing at Target Center and at Williams Arena. The teams that are playing the best in March should be at Target Center and at Williams Arena.
Well, there's 2 seasons. There's regular season, and then there's tournament season.
Yeah, and we're not necessarily getting the 8 best teams all the time. We get 3 or 4 of them. But those quarterfinal games are usually blowouts. All right, we need to say goodbye. Again, thanks to all our guests, Bryan Schnettler, Mieko Anderson, and, of course, my co-host, Larry McKenzie. Thanks most of all to you for tuning in. This has been the Minnesota Score Basketball Show.